brutal. Welcome to Reading for Idiots, a channel where I read books and I review books, and the purpose is to encourage more reading. Read more, read more, read more, read more, read more, and this channel is as much for you as it is for me. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know down below, and while you're down there, injure that like button. Tell YouTube what it is you like, demand it! New reviews go up every other Wednesday because it takes me that long to read a book and to write a review and make a video. Every other Wednesday is a reading related video or a remake of an old review that I did, like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, linked below. Because the original one is just hilariously and embarrassingly bad. A link to that will be linked in the linked video down below. The book we're looking at today regularly gets mentioned by the simps and incels over on our books. Honestly, our literature as well. These two subreddits, while at times, yeah, they do have some interesting discussions, the flogged dead horse of repeated talking points, it just no longer resembles a mammal. It is just a damp patch of soil that vaguely smells of blood. One such book that constantly gets brought up on our books and our literature, no doubt I'm imagining by some teenager who wants to sound very deep and very smart, is Osamu Dazai's No Longer Human. And being half Japanese, I have a soft spot for Japanese books, Japanese authors, and when my nephew mentioned that he really loved this book, well, now I kind of have to read it, don't I? So let's go! No spoiler review of Osamu Dazai's No Longer Human.
Like, share, subscribe.
I'm going to bring the emotional energy down to a level that is appropriate for this book. I don't really know what to say about it in a good way. So I guess I'll just be as factual as possible. But first, let me just say, so you don't get the wrong impression, that I really enjoyed reading this book, but it is brutal. And sometimes, as an accident is happening, all you can do is just watch. You know what I mean? Ningen Shikkaku, posthumously published in 1948 with the English title No Longer Human, but Ningen Shikkaku literally transliterates into English as disqualified as a human being. It is the magnum opus novella written by Osamu Dazai, born 1909, Tsushima Shuji. He passed by his own hand with a lover right before this book was published. I'll let you do the math how old he was. And you know, No Longer Human is considered a cornerstone of Japanese literature, one of its most important modern works, a totemic work of the Shishōsetsu, the I novel, which is a literary genre that is basically confessional style, first-person POV. I'll put a wiki link to that down below. And I found No Longer Human profoundly introspective in that way that I think only Japanese literature can be. It explores social alienation, or maybe just like alienation on an individual level. And it also looks at our search for meaning, but not in the big, like, what does it all mean kind of way, but more like in the small, why do we do this kind of way. The novella is framed as 3 notebooks written by our protagonist, Obayozo, with the brief prologue and epilogue by some unnamed character who got hold of these notebooks and put it together. In fact, the way No Longer Human starts, this unnamed guy's first words are all so all of a sudden and gripping, and it kind of reminds me of that Margaret Atwood poem. You fit into me like a hook into an eye, a fish hook, a human eye. So in these notebooks, we learn about Oba's life from childhood onwards, and the prose is raw and matter of fact. And despite the subject matter, it's free from flourishes in that very Japanese way, kind of like Kawakami Mieko's Heaven. I'll put a link to my review of that down below. And similar as well in that, yeah, I mean, it's introspective, but also the language is beautiful. The prose is beautiful and borderline poetic, which is just so strange because it's so detached, unnervingly detached. But man, it's bleak and it's unrelenting. But it's just so human and it's so vulnerable and it's so real. It's kind of like Catcher in the Rye, but on heroin. It really is no wonder that this book resonates with generations of readers. And despite the dark stuff that I've said, I'm really glad that I've read it. It's definitely worth reading. Like, you should read it too. To say that Tsushima Shuji had a tumultuous life is rather underselling it. It is worth reading up on it though, so I'll put a Wikipedia link down below. Alcohol, drugs, university dropout, lover after lover after lover, multiple attempts on his own life, some with a lover, but he always wrote. That he dropped out of Tokyo Imperial University, where he studied French literature, was because he wrote so much, and also because, well, let's just say, his personal struggles. He was actually quite involved as well with the literary scene in Japan at the time. He was a leading figure in the Budaiha, or the decadent school of writers who rejected traditional societal Japanese norms. And he contributed a lot to literary magazines, which played a huge part in Japanese society at the time, not just the literary scene, but just in society in general, and it still kind of does today. And it was his association with the Bungakkai and his mentorship under Ibuse Masuji, which helped him gain his early visibility. This is actually quite funny, and I think it kind of typifies Osamu Dazai with respect to the literary scene in Japan and also his peers. On December the 14th, 1946, Dazai and a group of writers were joined by Mishima Yukio at a restaurant for dinner. The latter recalled that on that occasion, he gave vent to his dislike of Dazai. According to a later statement by Mishima, "The disgust in which I hold Dazai's literature is in some way ferocious. First, I dislike his face. Second, I dislike his rustic preference for urban sophistication. And third, I dislike the fact that he played the roles that were not appropriate for him." Jesus Christ, right? Maybe brutality just runs in our Japanese veins. Just before signing off, here are some of Osamu Dazai's other works in case you might be interested in checking them out. The Setting Sun, Shayō, published in 1947 about the decline of Japan's aristocracy. Run Melos, Hashire Merosu, 1940, a short story about the Greek legend of Damon and Pythias. And Schoolgirl, published 1939, Joseto, a schoolgirl's daily life and thoughts. So that's it really. Thanks for watching to the end. If you've enjoyed finding out about Osamu Dazai and No Longer Human, please abuse that like button, share this video with your friends, etc, etc, etc. Also, read a book, this book, read any book. Just read. Hasta el próximo video, mis amores.
Like, share, subscribe.